Well, hello, hello. This is Cindy, your host at Ask Cindy Connector Live. Make sure that you follow me on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, and hit that subscribe button over on YouTube at Ask Cindy Connector Live. A really quick plug: if you're a small to medium sized business, check out StreamYard.com. And if you'd like to comment on today's broadcast, go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. And a really quick plug: I'm an ambassador with National Day Calendar. Today is National Eggs Benedict Day and Wear Your Pajamas to Work Day. If you'd like to learn more national days, please go to nationaldaycalendar.com. So, a little bit about the show. I am a podcaster and travel agent, but here on Ask Cindy Connector Live, it's a way for me to connect those that I meet in my sphere of influence to connect more into my sphere of influence. It's so important to be the connector. So today we're talking about fear. So I'm going to do a really quick story on mine. I've always been afraid of heights. So a couple of years ago, for my 54th birthday, I actually skydived over at Skydive San Diego. And next week on my Wonderlust Wednesday show, I'm interviewing the owner of Skydive San Diego. And as a kid, my mother actually had me very fearful of the water. So I've actually have taken some lessons over the years, and I could get in the pool, but the ocean is where I'm very fearful. But as of last year for my birthday, with McKinnon Surf and Sup lessons, he actually challenged me to get further out, and I took my very first surf lesson. So today I have my friend Scott. He is from Colorado, and tell us all about your story and how can we overcome those fears?
So, my name is Malik Scott. Thank you for having me on today. I really am thankful for it. This is actually helping me overcome some of my personal fears. Getting out there is one of my things. Because of social anxiety, we'll talk about it a little bit in a minute.
Yeah.
um, but that's kind of one of my ways I got into this. I told you before I was a CNA for a while, and
Mhm.
a few of the people that I was taking care of they would have these outbursts over like a year or year and a half, and I was like, what are these repetitious outbursts that they're having over? And I learned how we control our fears throughout our life, and based off of that, how it affects us later on in life. And I was really anxious to figure out how we could avoid some of that throughout our life, so that we would be more, I guess, aware, physically aware, mentally aware, and more capable as we aged. That being said, for me, I have a lot of I have a lot of sensory issues just naturally. So, like, I'm dyslexic. I have displaced a lot of things. I'm not always aware of my physical surroundings. And so I miss a lot of physical information. And because of that, I have a social anxiety of looking dumb. And so, one way I overcome that, I study a lot. I make sure I know what I'm talking about before I get to something that would give me anxiety, like a podcast, just because it feels like a test. It's not a test, but my brain goes into that fight or flight response of, oh snap, test mode. Are we ready? I don't know if we're ready. So it's just depending on the fear. Like you were saying, you had a fear of water, the ocean specifically when you were younger. You can expose yourself to it. That's one major way of overcoming fear is exposure, type of exposure therapy. Or you can gain knowledge about what your fear is. So if you have something like arachnophobia, a fear of spiders, you can learn different species of spiders. It sounds weird because you're looking at all these spiders, or if you go to a museum, you're seeing all of these insects and spiders in your face live, and you would
Oh,
think that it would induce fear, and it does. But having the knowledge of each specific type of spider will let you know, oh, this is harmless. This one isn't. This one is, this one doesn't make webs. This one does. These are the kind of webs that they make. So when you see these and you don't see the spider, you know what kind of spider to look for based off of the nest that it has. So those are two major ways we overcome our fears. Another one too, for like social people with like agoraphobia, a fear of being isolated or put in tight spaces, small spaces, and then getting embarrassed in that closed space. It's a little interesting with social fears because exposure therapy almost seems more traumatizing to them because it's essentially it's this fear of the tribe that we have or a person could have, or I'm not valued within the tribe. Any
mhm.
of those kind of little social tweaks that a person has could create a fear where they're like, I don't want to go out there. I don't want to put myself out there. I'm like, I don't want to date. I don't want to get rejected. But it's almost like the equivalent to it would be like having a fear of failure. Failure's going to come.
Mhm.
Social disappointments are going to come. You just have to be aware of it. And so acknowledging it is the best thing you can do. And then working within that. So Dr. Penn has something that she calls an escape plan. So her escape plan is like if she's driving on the highway during rush hour, she will, well, if it's rush hour, she'll try to drive through the city and not the highway because it's too much for her to really process at any given time.
Same. LA traffic, forget about it. No.
But then in a lot of ways it helps too because it lets you know what your limits are. So
Mhm.
your fears aren't even necessarily bad. They are it's really the brain's fight or flight mechanism to what it is, the sensory information that's given, your sights, your sounds, your feels, all of those sensory things, even like hot and colds. You know, there's there's a point where I'm a naturally cold person. My family will tell you. I was when I was a kid, I would carry this like big Eddie Bauer like marshmallow coat around because I would be cold, or my jacket around. In Texas, it'd be like 96, 103 degrees, and I'd be like, I'm cold, I'm cold. but but there is a certain point where my body will drop, and then I'll be like, oh no, this isn't good. And it's just based off of that temperature. And so knowing what that limit is, I have to become very aware of where I am, what I'm doing, what I have access to overcome that fear at that moment. So,
So what do you say about I still have fear of the water, but like
mhm,
I told you, I took my surf lesson last year. So I'm still fearful of the water, especially when the water is taller than me. But I'm
mhm.
still going to go out there. I'm going to go out with my surf instructor and I'm going to go out and do it. But I'm still scared every single time. So I know it's all mindset. So what do you think your best advice for me is to just get out of my head?
Being fearless doesn't mean you don't have fear. And so the fear will always come up. It's like giving a speech. I'm always going to be anxious when I give a speech. I'm standing on
Yeah.
stage by myself, presenting my knowledge about whatever topic it is. I'm one of those people who gets in my own head. So it's always
Exactly.
going to come up. But when you see it, you address it right then. Like, a shark's not going to jump out the water and eat me. The water is not going to overcome me. I'm not going to be able I'm I'm going to be able to swim if something happens. So you like those fail safes, those escape plans. Um you just have these barriers in place that you know will happen. And even if something does go outside of those barriers, you know you have your instructor. And that's where something like accountability is great,
Mm-hmm.
because people on the outside of your situation always sees it a little bit different. So they can help you face those fears and let you know, this is not a wave you should be afraid of. I wouldn't bring you outside this far outside your comfort zone if it was something that you couldn't handle. And to answer Lauren Pinn's question, no, I am not afraid of the cold. It's just I have a sensory response to how cold I get. And it's once I hit that sensory point, then I become afraid of what potentially could happen next. For me, a lot of fears are triggered based off of sensory things, not necessarily based off of who I'm around or what I'm doing. It could just be this person did something and I wasn't ready for them to do it. Now they're too close. And because they're too close, it's not you. It's because you're too close. Now I'm uncomfortable. Now I'm afraid. Fight or flight. Then I go into my fight or flight response. Do I run? Do I stay? How do I respond to this? How I respond determines my fear level as well. So if, for example, if you're out on the ocean and you do see that tidal wave, you could go, holy crap, gonna turn around, we're going home. This ain't it. Today, not today. And that would increase your fear because it 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 validates the brain's idea of this is unsafe instead of going through the experience and figuring and having your brain figure out this is safe.
So Dr. Penn is asking, why do I surf? Well, I'll tell you why. I grew up in Northern California near Santa Cruz, and I've always been intrigued by seeing all the surfers, you know, shredding the gnar, going in and out of the wave. I always thought that was really cool. So when I moved here to the Huntington Beach area, I connected with this local surfer and I made it happen. And yeah, the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire existence, but amazing, amazing feeling. And he had me break through those barriers because I was not having it, but at the end it happened out amazing, and then I was able to mark off that bucket list. So it's pretty phenomenal, actually.
That's awesome.
So, what else do you have to say about fears for someone who wants to overcome them and like not making excuses? Because that was the thing with my surfing. I kept on making excuses.
Um, you have to address the excuses. So everybody, in a way, everybody knows what their fears are. So at Pinpoint Chiropractic, I have somebody who doesn't accept unpredictability well. Personally, I do get it. But cognitively, the issue with that is you can't live a life where you control everything. And the difficult thing about that when you're a person who's organized like she is, like I am, is you want everything so controlled because you don't want to have to do not extra work. You don't want to expend extra energy. Like I have this much energy and time for this much stuff. So I'm going to try to control all this right here.
Mhm.
And anything outside of this is going to make me upset because I have to be accountable for that stuff. But that's what life is. Life is all this.
Mm-hmm.
and you can't be accountable for all of it at one time. So you have to accept that unpredictability a little bit. And so one thing I do is I make her match cards, and then I'll put cards in there that don't match. Because the cards, she'll get used to the pattern of these cards match, these cards match, these cards match. And then she'll say, this doesn't match. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. But you can't do that. Sometimes the solution is no solution. And that is something you have to accept as well. Sometimes it's good to be afraid of spiders. A black widow will kill you.
Or snakes. That's my fear.
Or snakes.
You're not like snakes. Ugh.
But it's also good.
No.
Most poisonous snakes, there's one class of poisonous snakes I can think of that doesn't have a really good tell. But for the most part, most snakes have a tell before they attack. And so when you learn those things, or you learn which snakes are poisonous and how to differentiate them, it becomes a lot easier to be around snakes. I'm not saying it's the easiest thing, because my snakes is things too. My thing is snakes as well. I don't like them. But for example, when I was in 7th grade, we had an exotic zookeeper come and bring her pet snakes to class. And that day I had to hold the boa constrictor in my hand and around my neck. And I was like, I am so scared, because this thing could strangle me, kill me, and eat me right here. And nobody will be able to do anything because it's a boa constrictor, you know?
Yeah.
But afterwards, I was like, I can at least understand how a boa constrictor constricts versus how it moves. It is different. The pressure feels different. It didn't almost kill me. But the experience brought knowledge. That knowledge helped lower that fear response. Not to the point where it's non-existent. I'm not going to be like, hey, I want a pet boa constrictor for a pet. Nah. But like, my friend had one when I was in high school, and I was like, that's dope. I understand them. Keep it away from me, because I don't like it. But
arm's length.
Yeah, she would take it out the cage, and I wouldn't run across the room. So it's just those things over time. Knowledge does help. Knowledge does help those situations with your fears.
Well, I have 1 minute left on the show.
Oh, okay.
Do you have anything you want to add? I think I want to do another show for part 2. Yeah, we're not going to have time to finish everything that we need to cover today.
Okay.
So just give a minute tip really quick on the techniques that's going to help with fear, and then we'll do part 2 at the next show.
Breathing mantras. So like, psychologically, it's called neurologic linguistic programming. But it's the repetitious repeating of words or a phrase or something that helps your brain either trigger a response or not trigger a response. And so repeating words, or repeating like, I'm not afraid of this, I'm not afraid of that, it's not going to conquer me, even if it does. Sometimes the solution is just telling your brain the solution is, I'm not afraid. Because when it happens, your brain's like, I know I shouldn't, but I am, but that's okay. I'm going to deal with this, and then we're going to figure this out later. Because the brain does that. It's like, okay, I understand this wasn't supposed to happen, so let me figure out how to improve and adapt. It's a wonderful tool that way. then like breathing exercises or having an outlet to get some of that nervous energy out, because the body responds to fear. Sometimes you're like, I'm not afraid, but your body's like, yes, we are. And so sometimes having an outlet for that energy helps calm your nerves enough to go, okay, we can do this now. I'm still afraid, but I'm not Bugs Bunny on crack.
Oh Lord.
And then I would have to say, really just confronting them, acknowledging what they are, taking the time to go, okay, I am afraid of the water, but it's because of this. This thing is no longer here, so let me try to overcome the sensation of being afraid. When I was a kid, we used to have gardener snakes in our garden or in our backyard all the time because we kept a lot of dead leaves in there, so it was comfortable for them. I had to learn what a gardener snake was so I wouldn't run in the house scared because there's a snake in our backyard.
Yeah.
Took a good 3 years, but I learned it. I was like, okay, we're good. I could see it. And when they come in the garden now, I'm like, I appreciate you doing your job as a gardener snake, eating all those ants and all those bugs and all those things that I don't have time to kill. But I'm glad nature's doing its thing.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. And I definitely want to do a part 2 of fear. I think it's so crucial, especially for me to get out there. Cause yeah, I would like to go surfing like every couple months, but yeah, I just kind of had to break through all that and I got to get it out of my head. It's all, mental clarity. And I need to really focus on that, but thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to put you in the green room. And do you want to plug your Facebook page really quick?
Yes, you can find me at the Millennial Sage on Facebook. And actually, the best way to get a hold of me as well is to email me at the millennial.sage@gmail.com.
Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I will see you in the green room in just about 30 seconds.
Great.
Well, there you go, guys. Make sure that you follow him. You could actually check out all the links here in the broadcast room and live every day to the fullest. We do not know our last day. Spend at least 5 minutes a day. Think of 5 people that you can call and express gratitude. We do not know when our very last day is going to be. It's so important to live every day to the fullest and take the time out for yourself as well. So this is Cindy over at Ask Cindy Connector Live. Have a great weekend and make sure to check out Networking Riches. It is this Saturday and Sunday. Talk to you soon. Woohoo!